Bowl season is here. Are you ready to cash in on what you know? Where you play is as important as what you play. The pros play at mybookie.ag. All the lines, odds, and plays, both college and pro, all at mybookie.ag. Play where you get paid super fast and there's never a hassle. Step up and mybookie.ag will match your deposit with up to a 50% bonus. Use promo code Ryan to activate the offer. Don't leave the money on the table. mybookie.ag, promo code Ryan, and your first deposit is matched up to 50%. Play where the pros play because they get paid. mybookie.ag.
This is the Will Cain Podcast on ESPN Radio.
Yes, it is day 2 of the Will Cain Show. The revolution has reached its second day. Caniacs are filling the streets. How do we like that? Do we like Caniacs?
I don't love it.
What are we going to call everybody? There's been a few out there on Twitter who've self-named it Caniacs. Day 1 into this revolution. I want to get to today why I would never trade Dak Prescott for the first pick in the NFL draft. And actually how many franchises would trade their starting quarterback to the Cleveland Browns for the first pick in the entire draft. Is the Jimmy Garoppolo trade, is it a top 5 quarterback trade in the history of the NFL? Top 5 most franchise-changing quarterback trades in the history of the NFL. And why I think John Gruden is completely and utterly being overhyped. John Gruden, not the Monday Night Football host, not the Monday Night Football analyst, John Gruden, the franchise-saving coach, potentially of the Raiders, completely being overhyped. But as I said, first of all, the reviews are in. I told you guys yesterday when I was listening, I'm not going to check Twitter during the show, and I did a good job. I was honest. I did not check Twitter during the show, but I did last night. And apparently, the show is
fantastic.
It's simply
fantastic.
Everyone is saying it. Everyone. Ask around. Everyone is saying it's
fantastic.
So, what are you going to do?
You have selective viewing.
Selective viewing?
Yeah, I mean, I think it was surprisingly positive, but it wasn't all fantastic.
No, not positive.
Fantastic.
So, it's hard right now. It's hard to be humble, but it is what it is. And we got to work on that, huh, Smallman? Caniacs, I agree. It's a little bit.
You know what? It might grow on me, though.
It's a little bit. What can I say on Disney? It's a little bit. Yeah. Help me out with that. I need to know what words I can say. I'm only in day 2. Even though it's a revolution, I'm only in the second day. So, this morning, Monday Night Football analyst John Gruden went on Golic and Wingo, and he was asked directly, are you going to take the job as head coach of the Oakland Raiders, soon to be Las Vegas Raiders? Are you going to take it? I mean, John Gruden has been rumored to the University of Tennessee. John Gruden has been rumored to the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. And now, according to Adam Schefter and Chris Mortensen, it's more than a rumor. John Gruden is to be the next head coach of the Oakland Raiders. When asked, he said this.
I think there's a good chance. I'm excited about where I am in terms of studying the game and prepared to come back and coach. I just don't want to sit here and speculate. And it's almost like I don't know what's going to happen, Mike. I got to be honest with you. It's been a long couple of weeks. I know they've gone through their process of interviewing candidates, and until they're done, I won't know. But I did have a good meeting with Mark. I've known him a long time, and got a lot of respect for the Raider football organization.
Is he being honest right there? I mean, is John Gruden telling the truth to Mike Golic and Trey Wingo?
I don't think he's lying, but is he telling all of the truth?
No, he's not. John Gruden knows he's going to be the next coach of the Oakland Raiders. Now, listen, as I get older, I tried to be in Smallman. You and I got into this a little bit in the pre-show meeting. Like, there's something I'm fighting, which it's a loss of idealism, and I don't want it to become like a loss of principles. I value truth. I promised everyone yesterday with the launch of the show I'm going to do 2 things. I'm going to hold to 2 promises. I'm going to tell you the truth, and I'm not going to live in a glass house. My truth will not go unchecked. And I value the truth like it's the highest principle on my hierarchy. Being liked, being popular, being nice. These things are lower in priority to me than telling the truth. But as I get older, I try to, honestly account for reality And John Gruden's not telling the complete truth, Cerruti, to Trey and Mike because he can't. Right? He cannot say, yeah, I'm going to be the next head coach of the Oakland Raiders. Why? Because it would be obvious that the Oakland Raiders are completely and utterly circumventing the Rooney Rule. Because I guess anything can still happen. I guess the deal could still fall through. But the problem I have with Gruden on just taking the acceptance of the reality path, that's the way it is, is this has come up over and over again. Ryan and I sat here a few months ago, and Ryan went on a rant about why does your name keep coming up? Why are you saying Rocky Top on Seattle radio? Why are you entertaining the Tennessee job when you know you're not going to take the Tennessee job? Why did you say a week ago, I thought I was going to get the Tampa Bay job, mocking rumors which look like they're turning out to be true? I guess what at some point with Gruden, I'm like, you're being an adult, you're acknowledging reality, but come on, you can do us the favor of not lying to us. You can tell us the truth. You are the coach of the Oakland Raiders. John Gruden is the coach of the Oakland Raiders. Now, as I said, I made this promise, and I'm going to tell the truth, and John Gruden is a colleague that I've never met, and I think he's a phenomenal analyst. I think he's a great play-by-play guy, color guy next to Sean McDonough, but I'm not sure he is a franchise-saving coach of the Oakland Raiders. That's not who John Gruden is. But because his name has come up over and over again, from the Tennessee Volunteers to the Tampa Bay Buccaneers to the Oakland Raiders, it's been turned into like this is the only franchise savior that exists out there. So much so that reportedly the Raiders are considering giving him a piece of ownership. Stephen A. Smith really didn't like that.
Does Bill Belichick have an ownership stake in the Patriots? I mean, the 5-time champion? As a head coach? I ain't even bring up defensive coordinator titles. He doesn't have an ownership stake. Bill Parcells, did he have an ownership stake? Jimmy Johnson, did he have an ownership stake? Mike McCarthy, Mike Tomlin, they've won Super Bowls. Do they have ownership stakes? Sean Payton in New Orleans, does he have an ownership stake? Bill Walsh in San Francisco, did he have an ownership stake? Tom Landry, Cowboys, did he have an ownership stake? Chuck Noll, Pittsburgh Steelers, did he have an ownership stake? Bill Cowher, did he have an ownership stake? The answer is no.
Stephen A. is 100% right. Now, where Stephen A. is wrong is that the market in the 90s did not call for a coach to get some kind of ownership stake. But the question is now, does the market today call for somebody like John Gruden to get an ownership stake? It's time for Straight Talk, brought to you by Straight Talk Wireless. Best phones, best networks, no contracts. John Gruden is not worth an ownership stake in the Oakland Raiders. And he told Trey, Wingo, and Mike Golick, don't worry about it, because that's not happening.
There's no truth to that at all. I heard Stephen Smith screaming at me on TV yesterday on one of his shows.
Well, it's pretty sly right there, by the way. Did you hear that? Stephen Smith? That's an insult. That wasn't called for. And I'm going to use it on First Take, probably tomorrow. It's the second best insult to Stephen Naismith whenever he proclaims his basketball knowledge.
There's no truth to that at all. I heard Stephen Smith screaming at me on TV yesterday on one of his shows.
Well, he does that to everybody, so just so you know.
That's one of the most, that has, there's no validity to that at all. None, zero. So that's a nice segment that I saw, but no ownership, that's for sure.
Well, that's good. Because while Stephen A. points out Jimmy Johnson, Bill Belichick, Bill Walsh, Bill Parcells, all of whom were top of their profession coaches who didn't get an ownership stakes in those franchises, John Gruden similarly does not deserve an ownership stake in the Oakland Raiders. Even though markets change, even though times change, and even though coaching candidates change, he does not deserve it. John Gruden is a good coach. John Gruden's a great Monday Night Football analyst. He was a good coach. But he was 95-81. That's the straight talk. That's the truth. He's a little above 500. Not unlike Marvin Lewis. Not unlike Jason Garrett. Now, the difference, obviously, is that John Gruden won a Super Bowl. He won a Super Bowl with the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. But are you signing up for a guy 9 years later? 9 years it's been since he coached. Who's going to give you that kind of revolution? Who's going to give you that franchise-saving operation? Who's going to come in and 9 years of doing TV. By the way, I'm on the path right now to some kind of GM job. I don't know. Apparently TV and radio is the qualifications for some kind of big profile sports job. I would prefer GM of the Dallas Cowboys. That position's been vacant for quite some time. So apparently 9 years later, That's what gets you in. Having your name involved in every opening is more important than having a Super Bowl on your resume. That's Straight Talk, brought to you by Straight Talk Wireless, nationwide coverage on America's largest and most dependable 4G LTE networks. I'm not even sure the Raiders are the most attractive job in the NFL, by the way. If you were the top coach, if you were the top coaching prospect, which again, I guess is Gruden because the competition isn't very stiff, would the Raiders be the job you want? I mean, what's the top job in the NFL? Let's get into that. We'll ask Ian Rapoport that. It's the Will Cain Show on ESPN Radio and the ESPN app. Coming up now, into the clubhouse, guy I've never met. I'm excited to meet. Read his stuff all the time. It's Ian Rapoport, the Rap Sheet on Twitter, NFL Network Insider. What's up, Ian?
Man, how are you?
Good. Good to meet you. Thanks for coming on.
Yeah, happy to. What's up?
This is where I want to start. I asked this right before I went to break, talked about this. John Gruden, rumored, I think almost more than rumored, to go to the Oakland Raiders. If you had your pick of the litter, if you were John Gruden, or better yet, tell me what the market buzz is. What's the best job out there? Is the Raiders the top job for the top prospect?
It's tough to consider the Raiders in anything because it's so obviously going to John Gruden. If it was actually available for anyone, then I would think it would be a top job. Now, this year is a little different from most because there are a lot of top jobs this year. The Colts is open with Andrew Luck, who's getting healthy. The Lions is open with Matthew Stafford, a franchise quarterback. The Giants, one of the most storied franchises in sports, is open. You're going to draft quarterback high, and you have Eli Manning. This is probably the best actual slate of jobs open we've seen in a long time. But I do think the Raiders would be up there. The talent is impressive on that team. You have Derek Carr, who obviously took a major step back this year, but the talent is still there, so you can get that right. I would think if it was actually open, the Raiders' job would be in the top 3 or top 2. It's just not really considered open.
With the Raiders, the Lions, and the Colts being those top 3, you're saying? Or the Giants?
Yeah,
you mentioned the Giants, too.
It's actually difficult because all of these jobs are good. Usually we're talking like, all right, maybe the Browns would be open. They don't have any talent, but they do have draft picks. You can sort of make that work. Or, this job's open. It's going to take some time. These are some really, really good jobs that are open this year. And, the fact that the Colts obviously took an Andrew Luck injury. The Giants was basically the perfect storm leading that place to blow up. It rarely happens like this where so many good jobs are open, and also that there are so few, proven candidates to take them.
With NFL Network Insider Ian Rapoport on the Shell Pennzoil Performance Line. Get instant gold status at Shell. Join the Fuel Rewards program now at fuelrewards.com/gold. Okay, so let's reverse engineer this. Like you just said, there's so few candidates. I guess we'll take Gruden out of the mix, as you pointed out. And he has been, by the way, the top front runner, the top hype man for every job, both college and pro, for several years. If we take him out of the mix, who is the number one, most hyped, biggest prospect out there? Who's the guy all those clubs are going to be competing for?
It's funny. It's a funny question because usually this is all about Josh McDaniels, right? Like usually he's sort of the belle of the ball and he could probably get any job he wants. This year he's got, at this point, 3 requests. I believe he will be one of the top guys for the Colts, certainly, for the Bears and for the Giants. He's definitely a top candidate, and I think anybody would do very well to have him. And so let me set, he's got the Patriots lineage. He's brilliant. He's experienced. He can learn from the way it went in the past, all of that. He's actually not the guy with the most interviews. Steve Wilks, the defensive coordinator for the Carolina Panthers, has 5.
Really?
That is a pretty coveted candidate. And no, I'm sure most of the world hasn't heard of him. It took a while for his name to sort of surface. He is a really respected, dynamic guy who has 5 requests. That is pretty coveted as well.
So, okay, Wilks, you're right. That's not a name that everyone banters about, at the top of their list. So he's got 5. Can you help me out with, I don't know, Wilks? What would be his priority list? If you're matching top candidate to top job, that tells us then which is the most attractive job, right? Where would Wilks, in your estimation, prefer to be?
That's a good question, and unfortunately, I don't know the answer to that. Yeah. Definitively. I can look and say, look, he's a defensive guy. I think the main thing with him is he is dynamic. He's a leader. And it seems more and more that what teams are after now is not the hot coordinator who can call plays. You know, Sean McVay is not a great coach because he's a great play caller. I mean, he's a great play caller anyway. But he is dynamic, and his personality has basically become the Rams. And he's helped the quarterback position. But mostly his personality has become the Rams. That has helped. You know, Wilks is a tough, hard-nosed leader. And I think that's sort of what teams want. I mean, he knows Dave Gettleman very well from their time in Carolina. The Giants will take a look at him. It's one of the most storied franchises in sports. I would imagine that's something he would consider very strongly. And, you know, I would imagine the compensation would be, as high as it needs to be. I would think that one would be one that he'd probably look at pretty highly.
Did the Patriots sell too low on Jimmy Garoppolo?
I don't think so. First of all, their goal was clearly not to get the best price, because if that was the case, they could have traded Garoppolo to the Browns for a 2 and a 3 during the draft last year. And by the way, you know, it's easy to look at now and say, all right, well, the Patriots didn't get enough. What they were trading was a former second-round pick who played in 2 games in 3 years, was supposed to play in 4, and got injured. That's literally the whole resume. And the Patriots liked him. Everyone knew that. He was off the table for all teams. But anyway, the goal was not to get the most out of him, because the Patriots never opened it up for auction. They literally sought out the Niners in a day. Sought out the Niners. We're going to trade Garoppolo. Here's the deal. Talk back and forth pretty quick. Did the deal and made sure to send him to a place that he would be successful. He is having a lot of success, and I believe this makes Bill Belichick very happy.
Okay, that's a good transition. I want to ask you this. There's not yet, I think, reports of this. There's certainly talk of this and rumors of this. Is there a rift in New England? Is there a large rift between Belichick and Kraft? There's talk that Kraft was the one that said, you're trading Garoppolo, we're keeping Brady, when Belichick wanted to do the opposite, or at least invest in Garoppolo. Do you know anything about this?
First of all, I don't believe trading Brady was ever on the table in any form or fashion.
Right.
It's simply not an option. It's not something the team would ever do. I don't know of any rift. I don't have any legitimate information telling me that there is a rift in New England. What I do know is trading Jimmy Garoppolo is very complicated. It was a hard decision. It was something I know the Patriots don't take lightly. For years, they've seen him as the heir apparent to Tom Brady. This was literally the last time they could have traded him and gotten something real for him. This was a hard decision. It was, in the words of one Patriots person, very complicated. So I don't doubt that there were emotions on all sides. It was a very hard decision, and that not everybody was happy to do it. Not everybody wants to trade away the future franchise quarterback. The one thing that they could never account for was Tom Brady's still awesome, and he's 40, and he's as good as he was, maybe better than when he was 30. So if you have Jimmy Garoppolo, who didn't sign an extension that was discussed in the spring, and basically wanted to play. You have Tom Brady, who is never going to let him play because he's so good. This was literally the only option for the Patriots.
All right, you can catch Ian on the NFL Network's NFL Game Day Morning, airing noon Eastern and Sunday at 7 a.m. Eastern. Ian, thanks for the time today.
All right, thanks, man. Enjoyed it.
You bet. So coming up, I want to talk about this conversation we just had. I don't think the Patriots ever considered trading Brady. The question was, what did trading Garoppolo do to that front office? How much did that split the organization? And is the Garoppolo trade honestly one of the most franchise-altering trades in NFL history, at least for the 49ers? It's the Will Cain Show on ESPN Radio and the ESPN app. I got to be honest with you. I don't think the Patriots ever considered trading Tom Brady. I don't think Bill Belichick, for all his cold-bloodedness, all his pure business decisions, all his I'll let go of anybody, never considered trading Tom Brady. But what I do think is that there was some serious disagreement about trading Jimmy Garoppolo inside that building. It's the Will Cain Show on ESPN Radio and ESPN app. All guests, which just a few minutes ago included NFL Network insider Ian Rapoport on the Shell Pennzoil Performance Line. I think, number one, the Patriots sold Jimmy Garoppolo too low. Now, as Rapoport just said, they never intended to sell him at as high. They never opened Garoppolo up for auction. They weren't going to trade him to Cleveland. But I don't buy the insurance thing either. We're just holding him for the first 8 games in case Tommy gets hurt. I don't buy that. You don't buy insurance for the first part of your life. You don't buy insurance for ages 0 through 30. You buy insurance for the end of your life. And what I'm talking about is the end of the season here. You don't buy insurance for the first half of the season. You buy insurance for the second half of the season. After it's clear that you got something, after it's clear your team's going somewhere, so that you don't end up with Nick Foles playing in the place of Carson Wentz. That's what insurance is for. It's to ensure you're never in that situation. It's not to ensure that Nick Foles starts game 4 when your franchise quarterback is down. So I never bought the insurance thing. I look at it and I go, they held on to him too long. They should have traded him in the spring. They should have traded him when there was a bigger market for him, when there was more teams in the running. They did sell him too low. And you got to ask yourself, it's a small sample size. And I always thought I'd be careful giving up a lot for Jimmy. He's got only a few games under his belt. And we can't now reverse engineer it. Now he's got 5 more starts under his belt and go, wow, they got hosed here. Rather, I think they got hosed because they just held on to him too long. Just from a market perspective. More teams in the spring than in the fall. When you sell when you're up against the wall, when you have no leverage, when you sell when you have to, you sell low. That's how that works. 888-729-3776. Get on in the show. You can. Drew in South Carolina. What's up, Drew?
Hello, Will?
Yeah, Drew. What's up, man?
How you doing? You was talking about nicknames for your listeners in the beginning of the show.
Yeah, Caniacs. What do you think?
My nickname for you and all the other talking heads is Wonder Lickers.
Wonder Lickers.
Yeah, that's what I think you guys are. But you can call me a Cain mutant. How's that?
I mean, I don't even know how to fight with you yet. What are we doing? Explain Wonder Lickers.
Reporting on rumor and speculation is fact, then having weeks of debate about the information, and then acting surprised and having great debate when the false information that was reported turns out to be false.
First of all,
but Marvin Lewis got fired 2 weeks ago.
Okay, first of all,
and John Gruden got offered ownership to the team.
Drew, hold on. Explain Wonder Lickers. I want to know how I'm being insulted. Will you explain Wonder Lickers so I know how I'm being insulted?
Well, it's
over my head is what it is. Fill in the
blanks.
blanks.
Well, I didn't mean to do that. You're familiar with the Wonderlic test?
Yes.
At the combine?
Yes.
Okay, well, it's a coy play on words on that. Okay. But what it is basing projections and speculation on information that is inconclusive and in most cases meaningless.
Yeah, that's a real winner you got there. Do you explain it every time to your buddies at the bar like that?
I don't have any buddies.
I believe you.
Thank you.
I believe you. Thanks for the call, Drew. I believe you. I'm going to tell you why that happens, Drew. When you're at the bar talking to your buddies about not reporting something as fact, like whether or not Marvin Lewis is going to get fired, but talking about reports coming from Marvin Lewis himself saying, I don't think I'm going to be back. I don't know if I'm going to be back. And then you discuss that when you're the guy at the bar that goes, let me just tell you guys something, okay? That's not a factual report. I can understand why they walk away.
I would take that as some sort of a compliment. Like, if you do well on the Wonderlic test, it means you're kind of smart. So, does that mean our audience is smart if you're a Wonderlicker?
I don't know.
It also sounds kind of weird. I don't know. Wonderlicker.
I don't know either.
That's a pass. We're going to skip that one then.
You don't want to use Wonderlicker?
No.
I get what he's doing with the liquors thing.
As do I. I like your original one better, but it's not the winner yet.
All right, Drew, thanks for the call. Call back, please. Listen to this. All right, Jimmy G, traded for a number 2, okay? Second-round pick. Looking really good right now for San Francisco. Looking like a franchise alterer, okay? Top 5 franchise-changing quarterback trade of all time? You think?
It's too early to know that. I mean, he's got to win more than 5 meaningless regular season games first, right?
Listen, Wonderlicker, don't cut the conversation short because we're calling it a little soon. All right, here it is. Number 1, Brett Favre, traded for the number 19 pick, first-round pick. Obviously, we know how that turned out. By the way, the Falcons got running back Tony Smith with that 19th pick. Number 2, Steve Young, a second and a fourth in 1987. The reason the Bucks traded him to San Francisco, why? They drafted Vinny Testaverde. Number 3, Fran Tarkenton, Giants to Minnesota in 73. Tarkenton took the Vikings to 3 Super Bowls. Number 4, Joe Theismann, 1976. Redskins to Dolphins. Theismann then, with the Redskins, beat the Dolphins in the Super Bowl. I believe it was 83. This is where Jimmy G comes in. And I'm not going to put him in here yet, Cerruti, because as you said, Wonderlicker, it's a little early. Trent Green, Rams to Chiefs. No Super Bowls, no championships, but top offense in 2002, 2003, and second-rate offense in 2004. That's Jimmy G's range. Not yet. Okay? I'll be a Wonderlicker.
Did you mention Alex Smith? Traded for 2 second-round picks. I think they win in the playoffs almost every single year.
That pushes Jimmy G down to number 7. You got to put Alex above it.
Definitely.
Is Alex Smith in your top 5, bro?
Bros?
Yeah.
Yeah, definitely.
Top 5 sports
definitely.
Bros?
I'm like one of the few defenders he has.
All right, coming up, the phone lines are lit up. Apparently, I'm not the only person somebody's mad at. They're mad at you too, Cerruti, about your comments about the SEC yesterday. We got some great feedback on the SEC, why they're so incestual in their rooting interests, how it could be that somebody from Georgia roots for somebody from Auburn, how they could chant SEC at a Texas A&M game when Mississippi's winning on TV. Makes no sense. The Will Cain Show on ESPN Radio and the ESPN app. You guys have heard this, but LaMelo and LiAngelo are on their way. I don't know if yet they've landed. We need to find this out. Have they landed in Lithuania? I'm getting a thumbs up from our Lithuanian correspondent, Steve Cerruti and Bubba, that they have landed. The reports are that the coach of the Lithuanian team has said they're going to get a ton of playing time. Let's go now to our Lithuanian correspondent, our Lithuanian weather correspondent, Bubba. Bubba, what's the current weather in Lithuania?
It is 36 degrees, mostly cloudy.
So better than Connecticut.
Yeah, we are, 25 and sunny here, but a snowstorm's coming.
And matter of fact, Lithuania, for all our mockery, might be doing better than most of the United States. I mean, I don't know if y'all noticed, but it's cold out there. So, who are we mocking? Once again, the balls are out ahead of all of us. One step ahead. LeVar, always thinking. Always ahead of us. Speak it into being. Better weather in Lithuania. I'll tell you what. Michelle, didn't you have a friend that lived in Lithuania?
Yeah, one of my good girlfriends from high school taught English there for about a year.
What did you... So many questions. What do we need to know about what's going to happen to LiAngelo and LaMelo in Lithuania?
She sent me some fun facts, but I'll just leave you with this one. She says they have some interesting traditions. One, which loosely translated to English is called Shrove Tuesday. It's a holiday where they burn a straw character symbolizing the chasing away of winter. And it's essentially a straw lady on a stick that someone holds up. They parade it around in the school, and then they burnt the straw lady down, hoping all the winter would go away, and the children cheer.
Right.
Booger like that. Okay, so I wonder if they've done that yet. When do they do it? In spring? They burn this lady down?
I wasn't given a timetable, but I'm assuming it would be in winter if they're chasing winter away.
We need to do that here, right now, in America. I'm not pleased with our Lithuanian information. I would like, if we could, Bubba, go ahead and bring in the anthem. Let's... Lithuanian national anthem, because joining us now on the Shell Pennzoil Performance Line, live from Lithuania. No, it's not LeVar, it's not LaMelo, it's not LiAngelo. It's our own Jeff Goodman, who is in Lithuania, and what I'm told, Jeff, is you have not slept in 2 days?
But I'm at the Vitautis Mineral Spa right now, and my room is ridiculous, and I'm looking through all the massage possibilities while I'm here. So don't feel bad for me. You're getting 14 inches. It is a balmy 36, as Bubba said, and I'm doing well here. The Ball family got in at about 8 o'clock or so local time, and it was a disaster. It was mayhem.
Whoa, why?
There were like 50 media people from Lithuania. I think it was every media person that works in Lithuania might have been there. And LeVar walks through the door, after he gets his bags.
Wait. Did he first take walk? Did he do that walk he did when he walked on the first take, that LeVar Ball saunter? Did he do that?
He did a little bit of it, but not like full-fledged.
Okay. And what happened?
So he goes through, and the next thing you know, he spots me, so we're kind of talking as he's walking out. He's trying to make his way out. And equipment is going, tripods are falling down. Journalists are falling over these tripods onto the ground. It's a complete, it's what you would expect of LeVar and LiAngelo and LaMelo these days. One of the journalists looked over at me. He's like, is LeBron James coming?
Okay,
like, no,
hold on
these
now.
Are two kids
We're going to live vicariously through you, okay? Because we're not going to, unless we can get LaMelo on the phone, you're going to tell us what life is like in Lithuania. So you've been there for how long now?
I landed at 2:00 today. I went into Old Town. I had some pizza. I walked around Old Town, some nice shops. I didn't get a chance to do any shopping yet. Then I went back to the airport, talked to some people in Old Town, did some man on the street interviews. What do you think about the balls coming here? And most people are excited, and a lot of people knew who they were.
How's the pizza?
And then I went back to the airport. What's that?
How's the
The
pizza?
pizza was good. It was really good.
All right, here's what I want. How long are you staying, Jeff? How many days are you staying?
I may not come back. I'm staying 12, Will. I'm staying 12 right now, but listen, I may go downstairs. I just had a ridiculous meal. Like
you got
rack
that
of
massage
lamb.
parlor at your feet, so I want to hear more about that.
Massages. I mean, there's like 40 different options of I'm going to read you off a couple. You tell me what I should get.
Okay,
all right?
is this safe for Disney?
Yeah, whatever. We're good. You got body massages. You got, the Swedish full body massage, the sculpting massage, the foot and head. You got curative massages. I mean, I've really never gotten massages. Curative. What's the difference between a curative massage and a Vipatis Mineral Spa Classic
Probably
massage?
detox, a lot of impurities, a lot of poison inside you. You got to get out?
Probably. I mean, they make this water, the mineral. That's why they have these spas here. There's like 4 or 5 of them in this town called Birstanas, and it's right next to the town they're going to be playing in. And they haven't been over to the arena yet. They just got in. They're having dinner right now as we speak in the restaurant. And
I don't care about the balls. I care about you. That's what I want. I want you to call in every day and tell me I want a Lithuanian adventure story every day over the next 12 days. Can you give me something every day? Massages, food?
I think so.
Okay.
Yeah, hell yeah.
All right.
Hell yeah.
All right, get to bed. I know it's midnight there. Later. Something
It's
like
not quite midnight. It's 11. The problem was I did this trip on the heels of a Disney trip with my family, and Disney trips are way more exhausting than Lithuanian trips.
Oh, look, Disney trip to Lithuanian massage parlors. Makes a lot of sense. All right, Jeff, thanks, man.
The hell of it. You got it, man.
Jeff Goodman on the show pins up for him. Like, what is this? We got a call from Lithuania? Boris? What should we? I don't have time.
Hello.
What?
Hello, this is Boris from Lithuania. How are you doing?
I'm good.
You tell your friend Mr. Goodman that he can come to my spa anytime, and the balls can come too to my spa. It's very good.
Okay. Boris, I have a heart out, man. I need to know the name of your spot. Is it a massage parlor?
Yes.
Bowl season is here. Are you ready to cash in on what you know? Where you play is as important as what you play. The pros play at mybookie.ag. All the lines, odds, and plays, both college and pro, all at mybookie.ag. Play where you get paid super fast and there's never a hassle. Step up and mybookie.ag will match your deposit with up to a 50% bonus. Use promo code Ryan to activate the offer. Don't leave the money on the table. Mybookie.ag, promo code Ryan, and your first deposit is matched up to 50%. Play where the pros play because they get paid. MyBookie.ag.
This is the Will Cain Podcast on ESPN Radio.
It's the Lions. That's the best job in the NFL. That's the best current coaching opening in the NFL. I'm not even sure the Giants, the New York Giants, make the top 3 jobs. It's the Will Cain Show on ESPN Radio and the ESPN app, presented by Progressive Insurance. Get your quote today at Progressive.com. I got a list of all the NFL coaching openings right now, who they have currently. as their hopes or expectations or existing franchise quarterback. How much cap space each of these organizations have, where their defenses are today. To me, it's a laydown. It's the Lions. 888-729-3776. That's our phone number. Give us a call. Join the show. Sam, before we get into these coaching openings, you have a bone to pick with Cerruti? What's up, Sam?
Yeah, normally I would have a bone to pick with you, but yesterday you made a valid point about South Florida being given a chance to play in the playoffs, and Mr. Cerruti countered with, well, what if they get blowed out? Well, I'm going to get with numbers from Mr. Cerruti. Since 95, there have been 11 blowout in national championship games. 3 of them by the mighty SEC, the 2 teams that will play Monday night for the championship, with the biggest blowout being 38 points by, once again, Florida from the mighty SEC. Would you want to kick them out of the Power 5, put them in the lower conference?
What do you say to that, Cerruti?
Well, they get the benefit of the doubt, obviously, because they're in a Power 5 conference. Like, they play schedules throughout the year that are significantly tougher than UCF plays. UCF has to get up for 1 or 2 games every single year.
So their blowouts aren't the same as UCF.
They're not the same, because they to me have earned more of the right by playing an SEC or an ACC or a Pac-12 or whatever Power 5 conference schedule, because they're just tougher than an AAC schedule. And this is no knock against UCF, but it's just the reality of the situation.
Okay, but also the reality of the situation. Also, if you look at the Super Bowl era, on how many teams have got blowed out in there. During this time frame I just gave you, for 23 years, almost half the games, 11, were blowouts out of the 23 years. That's almost half the games were non-watchable after third quarter.
Sam's got you, Cerruti.
He doesn't have me.
Anybody can lose on a given day. The thing is,
anybody can win, Sam, on a given day. UCF can beat Auburn on any given day. Doesn't mean that they're better than Auburn. Doesn't mean that they're better, that they should have been in one of the 4 teams in the playoff. Doesn't mean that they're an elite team. It means that on one day, they beat a pretty good team.
But I'm just saying, give everybody an opportunity, just like you do in basketball.
That's exactly right, Sam. On 790 AM in the great city of Memphis, Tennessee. Thanks, Sam. Yeah, Cerruti, you're going to win the debate when you change it. And you changed it on Sam. You turned it into who's the best, who the top 4. He didn't argue that, and I didn't argue that yesterday. Nobody, you're smiling because you know you got.
No, that's me on the fly being right and changing my point.
UCF.
I learned that from you.
No one argued UCF was a top 4 team. What we argued is give them a shot to prove they can play with the big boys, because when you did,
but do you disagree with me?
Big boy down.
Do you disagree with me though? Just because Florida gets blown out in a national championship game, I'm not worried about Florida's credentials. What I'm worried about is UCF's credentials.
Their credentials do not live up to SEC credentials. That's a fact.
They don't get the benefit of the doubt like these other Power 5 schools do, and they shouldn't.
But
I'm sorry.
What it does then is create a cabal, a cartel, if you will, of 5 conferences who box everyone else out. And what you end up with is not a national championship where everyone has equal ability to win it and those with the greatest merit will. What you have instead is an invitational.
I'm not saying it's fair, Will.
Invitational among 5 conferences.
I'm not saying it's fair, because it's not fair. Obviously, in a perfect world, yes, they should be given a shot. But forgive me if I just don't think that they deserve to be in one of those 4 spots. Like, they just don't.
You're changing it again. I didn't say they should have one of those 4 spots.
And beating Auburn doesn't prove that they're some elite team.
It's an argument for an 8-team playoff, and then they could have a fair shake. We're going to do this. Where's Liam? Yesterday, he said I could have a pull-up bar. He basically said no to a golf simulator, right?
Too expensive. We don't have the budget.
I want to get a whiteboard.
I don't think we have a budget.
We're going to get a whiteboard, okay?
I was going to say, I thought it was a chalkboard. You're an old school guy.
Either one. We're going to keep track of our takes, okay? I'm not going to skate by on when I'm wrong. We'll write Wonderlicker next to it when I'm wrong. Take the L, and then that day I'm the Wonderlicker, according to our previous caller. But you're going to I got W's, too, that I'm going to be keeping up with. I bet you I'm batting 750. 750.
I have questions about what you're taking W's for, but we can get to that later.
I actually have taken L's a little too soon. Turns out, for example, I said I was wrong about the Celtics defense. It looks like they're really good. Well, what's happening to the Celtics defense? Regressing. So I need to not be so ready to hold myself accountable. I need to be a little more obstinate in my positions. That's the big lesson here. All right, here's the question. Honest question for you guys. If you were John Gruden, we'll play that game. If you're John Gruden, you're the top coaching candidate in the NFL. You got all the hype, you got all the buzz, not only for every college job, but every pro job. You could have your pick of the litter. That's the point. Where do you go? You got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 current openings. The Bears, the Cardinals, the Colts, the Giants, the Lions, the Raiders. Which job is it that you want? Which one puts you in the best position to succeed? Because I think it's the Detroit Lions.
In the same division as Aaron Rodgers.
Aging Aaron Rodgers. Injured Aaron Rodgers.
He's currently injured, but that doesn't mean that's just a permanent thing. It's a shoulder injury. He'll be back next year. He'll be back fine. I don't know. I wish I knew if Andrew Luck was healthy. If I knew Andrew Luck was healthy, that's the job for me. Weak division. I think he's a stud, and I think there's plenty of room to grow with that Colts team.
I would rank the Colts job as either the second or third, depending on what you think of Mitch Trubisky. Okay? That's the question. The Lions have Matt Stafford. The Lions have $53 million in cap space. That's the 8th most in the NFL. Their defense is not in great shape. It's the 27th ranked total defense. So if I look at cap space, quarterback, and defense, although they're lacking in defense, I'm taking Stafford in that cap space. The Colts, who you like, Cerruti, $83 million in cap space, which, by the way, is the 3rd most, 30th in defense. They're far away from having a good defense. And Matt Stafford, Andrew Luck's health is just too big a question mark, man. You can't bank your future on Luck over Stafford right now. You can't do it.
I'm surprised that you aren't as high on the Oakland Raiders job.
I like Derek Carr. They have decent amount. They have $19 million in cap space. That's 22nd most. The defense, Ryan and I used to talk about all the time. Yeah, they got Khalil Mack. Yeah, they got Bruce Irvin. They're still ranked 23rd in total defense. And if you ever press anybody on the Raiders defense, they basically answer back with, yeah, Khalil Mack and those guys. The Raiders is not a bad job, but it's not I don't think if I'm John Gruden, that's the pick of the litter unless they're giving you ownership. Here's the question. What do you think of the Bears job? That roster is not too great. $45 million in cap space, 12th most. Defense, though, 10th. And have spent a recent first-round draft pick on a quarterback, Mitch Trubisky. Ari, watching on ESPN News, what do you think is the best job?
Will, I take a look, and I'm from Chicago, so I got to say the Bears, but truly it's intriguing. You got a 23-year-old quarterback who looks like he can lead that team, a young, developing defense, got good guys, got Danny Trevathan, got Eddie Jackson, a couple big playmakers, and frankly, you have cap room and draft picks coming up this season. I take a look at that team, and I just see a lot of potential. We just need somebody to lead that team.
If you buy into Trubisky, yes. If you believe in Trubisky, it really is true that all of these job openings. Let me ask you a quick question. You still there?
Yeah.
Would you right now trade Mitch Trubisky for the first pick in the draft? Would you trade Mitch Trubisky for the number 1 pick to the Cleveland Browns? First overall pick. Would you trade him for that pick?
Yes.
So you would rather have Darnold or Rosen, I assume not Allen, but we'll throw Allen and Mayfield into that mix. You'd rather have them than Mitch Trubisky?
Yes. To be quite honest, yes. And I think it goes deeper than that because these guys have potential coming. Trubisky's a great guy to build around, I think, but if everybody's not fully invested in him, I think it takes away from the rest of the team.
All right, thanks for the call, Ari. You don't believe in him that much. You believe in him a little bit. You don't believe in him that much. What did the Bears take him with? The 6th pick? The 4th pick? What was it?
Second.
The 2nd pick.
And they traded up.
They traded up.
They gave up a 3rd round pick, I believe, for the 49ers to move up 1 spot.
If a year later you're ready to trade that for the number 1 overall pick, that's not showing a lot of belief in where Trubisky is. I agree. The Bears job, though, isn't terrible. There's some really attractive job openings right now in the NFL. For me, in the end, though, it's the Lions. It's Matt Stafford. It's what I know. I get Stafford and cap space, and I got to be honest, with all the incredible job openings, it's a while before I get to the name New York Giants. It's a while before I invest my future in that team. Remember, you can listen to all 3 hours of the Will Cain Show on the ESPN app. Coming up, so last year, I might still be, I was a big IT over Kyrie guy. We can put this on the take board, okay? Is that an L or a W for me? I said last year, in the moment, not for forevermore, that I'd take IT over Kyrie. Brian Windhorst is going to tell me if I need to take an L on that. It's the Will Cain Show on ESPN Radio and the ESPN app. So we're going to have a take board, right? Scoreboard. I don't intend to get away with anything. Horrible takes, wrong takes, good takes. Let's see if I have to put one up there. Tonight, Cavs Celtics, 8 p.m. Eastern Time on ESPN. And there right now is our friend Brian Windhorst on the Shell Pennzoil Performance Line. What's up, Brian?
What's going on, Will?
Not much. So first of all, why isn't IT playing tonight? Why is he not going to partake in this homecoming?
You know, I think the Cavs were trying to protect him from himself. I don't think they were afraid he would have a dud game. I think they were just thinking if they played him, if this is his first game or even in his first week, that he might just emotionally be so into it that he would overdo it. But I'm just going to be honest with you. Isaiah himself and nobody in the Cavs organization knew he was going to look as good as he did last night. If they knew he was going to look that good, they probably would have played him on Saturday in Utah and then today. But they were protecting him a little bit, and ultimately I think that was probably the right decision. He still has another game here in Boston in about a month, and that's a Saturday night ABC game. That'll be a major event. He can have his time there when he's not on minute restrictions and everything like that. But he did look damn good last night, and if they could do it all over again, maybe they would do it differently.
Yeah, 19 points in 16 minutes last night. What do you mean protect him, by the way? You sound like you're talking about emotionally. Is that what you mean?
Well, I just think that when you're coming back from 6 months, for example, if you're coming off of a long relationship and you broke up with your girlfriend, would you have your first date sitting next to your ex? You may not perform at your best, right? And so I think the Cavs, when they set this up, they knew if they played him yesterday that there was no way he could play in the back-to-back. And that way he wouldn't come in here and maybe try to do something that would put him at risk, whether it was trying to dunk the ball, whether it was just, sort of playing outside of himself and re-injuring himself. I honestly think that they had good intentions in setting it up this way. Now, their trainers may come out and tell you, oh, no, we didn't give him clearance until yesterday. But obviously, he was dunking 10 days ago. He asked to play last week in Sacramento. I think that was on Thursday. He could have played earlier and played in this game tonight. But I think the Cavs were trying to take care of him by setting up the schedule the way they did.
All right, so I don't know if you heard me talking about this. I'm going to keep track on myself, okay? I don't intend to just be, hey, here's my hot take and hope to get away with it. When I'm wrong, I'm wrong. When I'm right, I'm right. But I've learned also, by the way, Brian, not to admit defeat so readily. I was ready to admit defeat on the Celtics defense, which I said was going to be awful. And it started out looking pretty good. It's regressing a little bit. So here's what I said last year, okay? And I'm going to let you be the check on this. I said, over the short term, I'd rather have Isaiah Thomas than Kyrie Irving. It's not a projection of where they're going to be over the next 10 years, 5 years, who you build your franchise around. But in the short term, so last year, possibly even this year, this was before the injury, I'd rather have Isaiah and what he brings to the table than what Kyrie brings to the table in the short term. Do I need to take an L on that?
No, it's not a hill that I would die on. Arguing against you. I think different people can have opinions. Obviously he's a very emotional player that can lift up his teammates. I would say a couple of things just empirically. One, Isaiah is a little smaller, and that becomes an issue. Even though Kyrie's not a good defender at all, Isaiah is, believe it or not, even worse. They're comparable offensive players, but Kyrie is a little bit better. And Kyrie is younger and doesn't have now a serious injury history. So it's not like there's a big gulf there. But I think it's interesting when you look at Isaiah's career that 3 teams have traded him now.
Yes.
And I think that's interesting. And I don't know. He's not the same player he was 4 years ago when the Kings traded him. But I think that is somewhat interesting that if the Cavs decide not to re-sign him, that he could be on his 5th team in 8 years.
Yeah, but how many? Okay, Brian. But how many of those teams that have traded him ended up regretting it? All but the Celtics so far?
So far, that's true.
Every one of them have discounted him. Everyone's discounted him, from the draft to trades. And we're assuming the Celtics getting Kyrie Irving back in exchange, and I think over the long term it will be proven true, won't end up regretting it. But they're betting against Isaiah's history with that bet.
But it wasn't just Isaiah. They were also trading away a contract problem because they knew that he had a bad hip and that he wanted a huge contract, and they didn't know if they wanted to do it. So that's also in the issue. I'm presenting that as a fact, but like I said, I'm not going to engage really heavily on this because you could end up being right on this one. But when you talk to executives in this league, some of them will tell you, not all of them, but some of them will tell you that it's really hard to win at a high level with a small lead guard. Some of them point to that as one of the reasons why Chris Paul's teams haven't been able to advance deep in the playoffs. They may be wrong, but I'm just saying, I've had executives say that to me, and that's a factor when you look at how they evaluate players. Not that Kyrie's 6'6", but Kyrie has been able to win a championship, and he's been able to do it because he's got a little bit better size.
And LeBron James.
For sure.
Last point, and I get this with Isaiah. He didn't want a video tribute tonight in Boston. I mean, I get that. What was his reasoning? Because he's not playing? Don't give me a tribute when I'm not playing?
Yeah.
Yeah, I get that. But so when he comes back, assuming that then they can fet him when he comes back.
Yeah, but I'm going to tell you something. Jay Crowder, now, I don't know if Jay Crowder has it within him to be the type of guy who can be angry and go off for 25 points, but Jay Crowder has an axe to grind tonight, too. You know, he was a guy who was a really proud player, and they kept signing and drafting players in his position, and then they traded him when his mother was on her deathbed. I don't think Jay Crowder's too pleased with the Celtics organization either. I think they did what they had to do, and the trade would happen when the trade happened, whatever. But Isaiah's not playing tonight, but I would keep my eye on Jay Crowder. And Jay Crowder just had his best week as a Cav, had a great game last night at home. So I know it's not going to be as delicious as that, but just keep, as Isaiah would be, but keep an eye on that.
All right, Brian, thanks. We will. It's Cavs Celtics tonight, 8 p.m. Eastern on ESPN. Thanks, Brian.
Take care.
One last point on this Kyrie versus IT thing. Oh, the longer this goes on, the likelier it is that I will lose the debate. Kyrie's younger. Kyrie's healthier. But at the beginning of the season, as Kyrie was lighting it up and Isaiah was hurt, everybody dismissed the idea, dismissed the debate. Look at Kyrie. He's an MVP candidate. I'll just leave you with this. When Kyrie is carrying the Celtics, he's averaging 24.8 points a game, almost 25. When Isaiah carried the Celtics to the number one seed in the East, he was averaging 29 points a game.
You say number one seed in the East like the Cavs didn't just gift wrap that for them. They didn't care.
Okay.
Congrats.
Okay. All right.
You can't use that as a point for why he's better.
You'll keep regretting it, just like everybody else. You'll keep regretting it. Coming up, I asked this of a caller a minute ago, would you trade Mitch Trubisky for the number one pick in the draft? How many teams would do that? Trade their starting, maybe franchise quarterback for the number one pick in the draft. Do that deal with the Browns right now. It's the Will Cain Show on ESPN Radio and the ESPN app. About 10 minutes ago, what was it, a Chicago Bears fan? Yeah, a guy in Chicago called in and said he thinks that job's one of the top jobs. That job's got a lot of promise. Mitch Trubisky, that's something to build around. But I asked him, if you were offered the number one pick in the draft from the Cleveland Browns for Mitch Trubisky, would you do that deal? He said, yes. Yes. Yes, he'd trade Mitch Trubisky for the number one pick in the draft. A year after taking him number two and trading up that number two pick to get it. Which suggests you actually don't believe in Mitch Trubisky that much. So let me ask you this. Of all the different fan bases out there, all the different franchises out there, how many would trade their guy for the number one pick in the draft? I can tell you this. As a Dallas Cowboy fan, I would not trade Dak Prescott for the number one pick in the draft. I would not trade Dak Prescott for essentially Josh Rosen or Sam Darnold. Bubba, you're a Cowboy fan. Would you do that deal? Would you trade Dak for the number one pick?
No.
Now, let me ask you this. Do you have concerns about Dak?
Concerns, yes.
I do too. Real concerns.
But I would have more concerns about an unproven guy out of college.
Exactly. I tweeted something out. Cerruti, you came at me this past week and you said I've got 1 foot off the Dak bandwagon, right?
I did, because I think you do.
I've been a big champion of Dak. Big champion of Dak.
I thought maybe too much so going into the year, but yes.
No, he's earned it. And then Bubba's point in the end is correct. The guy had a 104 quarterback rating as a rookie. He set records like 500 pass attempts with the fewest interceptions over that period of time. Longest streak for rookie, breaking Tom Brady's record of pass attempts without interception. Those aren't flukes, man. That's not one-year wonder stuff. But I'm not going to pretend like there weren't concerns this year. I'm not going to pretend like I didn't see some things like that really scare me. Now you can point out, as one of my favorites, Marcus Mosier does. He's on Twitter and blogged. He did blog at Bleacher Report. When Tyron Smith was out, Dak Prescott was completely different. When Tyron Smith was in, Dak Prescott was back to being a franchise quarterback. Some have pointed out it's Linehan's fault. Apparently, Bubba, what do we have news just now breaking? Wade Wilson let go by the Dallas Cowboys.
Quarterbacks coach Wade Wilson, contract expiring, not coming back.
Great. That's what Jerry was talking about when he said there's going to be coaching changes.
Big changes.
Not Scott Linehan, offensive coordinator. Not Jason Garrett. Wade Wilson.
And possibly Derek Dooley, too. So maybe the quarterbacks and wide receivers coach.
That'll change things.
Big changes.
Yeah. That'll fix it. No, there's serious concerns, Rudy, about Dak Prescott. I'm objective enough to acknowledge that. But I'm not trading for the number one pick. I'm not trading with the Cleveland Browns for that number one pick.
All right, let me spin this on you. If you're the Browns, would you trade the number one pick for Dak Prescott?
In a heartbeat. In a heartbeat. Wouldn't you?
I think I would, just because they need something concrete. You at least know he could play a little bit.
He's got the intangibles, the leadership ability, the work ethic by all reports. He's got a year of record-setting rookie performance. He's had half a year of regression, half a year of concerns. I think you take that cost-benefit versus absolutely an unknown in Rosen and Darnold. Evan in North Carolina watching on ESPN News. Who's your team, Evan?
It's the Green Bay Packers, man.
I'm assuming you're a no on trading your quarterback for the number one pick.
No, but I would say that the Jets have to make a move for Baker Mayfield.
Well, what are the Jets? They're sitting at 6th? Where are they in the draft?
Yeah, they're sitting at 6.
They're going to Baker's not going to go before 6th. They can get Baker Mayfield.
No, but he's better than Josh Rosen or Sam Darnold, in my opinion.
Well, that may be your opinion. Appreciate the call, Evan, but he's not. I'm telling you right now, Baker Mayfield's not going to be drafted before Rosen and Darnold. Now, if one of those guys like Darnold decides not to come out, or Rosen decides I'd rather be at UCLA for another year than play for the Browns, Baker could jump up. But he's not going before those two guys. He'd be available at 6 for the Jets. So, Rudy, I have my list of teams that would trade their franchise quarterback or their starting quarterback, that's what we should say, for the number one pick in the draft, all right? Here's mine. The Arizona Cardinals, because now it's Drew Stanton. The Buffalo Bills, obviously, are not in love with Tyrod Taylor. The Cincinnati Bengals would trade Andy Dalton. Yes, we can agree. The Denver Broncos would obviously trade Simeon or Lynch for the number one pick in the draft. I think the Jaguars would trade Bortles for the number one pick in the draft. They're not sold on him, man. Now, he's looking better, and I'm tired of all these guys taking shots at Bortles. I mean, the latest is another Tennessee Titan guy. It's such a dog pile. It's such an easy maneuver for after every game, the opponent says, oh, Bortles, he's a choker. Oh, Bortles, he's no good. I mean, real independent there.
Why is he such a punching bag for everybody now? I don't get it.
It's because it's easy.
He's okay. Nobody's saying he's great. Actually, most people probably think he stinks. He's okay. And his team is the 3 seed in the AFC.
Yeah, he's played well over the past month.
Get off his back.
Bortles service.
Jarrell Casey.
Because it's easy. That's why people are doing it. You're not going to catch flack for slamming Blake Bortles. The Dolphins would trade Tannehill for the number one pick in the draft. The Jets, obviously, we just talked about, would trade Bryce Petty, Christian Hackenberg, Josh McCown for the number one pick in the draft. And I think after this, listen to this, I think the Redskins would trade Kirk Cousins for the number one pick in the draft.
When you're 7-9, it's hard to say, wow, this guy really was outstanding. Kirk had his flashes where he's really good from a consistent standpoint over the course of 16 games. We're 7-9. He did some great things, threw for over 4,000 yards and 29 touchdowns, I believe. So, I think he's very, very good quarterback without a doubt. But as far as getting us over the hump from 7-9 to winning division with all the injuries we had, I think he competed, did some good things.
That's Redskins coach Jay Gruden. That is not a huge endorsement. He doesn't quite push us over the hump from 7-9 to getting where we want to get. I think they would trade him. Everything's already in flux between them in that relationship. They're already spending more than they want on him. I think they'd trade him.
To me, it sounds like he's stuck between. He knows ownership and maybe even the GM don't really want to keep Cousins, so he can't really come out and say, yeah, I love Cousins. I want him to be here forever, because then that puts him in a weird situation with the organization now.
But that is not an endorsement.
Not at all. Well, I think he was just towing the line. I don't think he really said anything. He said he was not that great because they went 7-9, but also he carried them through some injuries.
Ryan, watching on ESPN News. What's up, Ryan?
I just wanted to have a conversation with you real quick about the Dak Prescott thing. I'm a diehard Cowboy fan. I live in West Texas, so you know how that goes. What's not to say that the Cowboys wait another year? We trade Dak for the first overall pick. Get a guy like I know you love the Longhorns. I'm a huge Longhorn fan as well. Get a guy like Connor Williams to help stabilize the offensive line. Get a quarterback late and maybe tank a year and wait for somebody better in the following rounds and years.
I think it's insane, Ryan. I think that is absolutely insane. I'm sorry, man. Love West Texas. In-laws from Lubbock. Dak Prescott just carried you to 13-3 last year, the number 1 seed in the NFC. You're not selling him for an offensive tackle from the University of Texas. You're not selling him and tanking for a year and hoping whoever comes out in 2019 is going to be wonderful. You can't sell on Dak Prescott. You can't panic. There are concerns. That's the only thing you can say. There are concerns, and hopefully you get a coach in there who actually can develop him, but you don't sell him and tank. It's nuts. What, Bubba?
I just have another Cowboys update for you.
Oh, another coaching change?
Secondary coach, Joe Baker, is not coming back.
Oh, okay.
Making moves.
Big changes in Big D. Big changes. Jared was right. Change is coming. All right, so that's 10. That's 10 teams that I said would change their starting quarterback for the number 1 pick in the draft.
I think you're missing a few.
Really? Who am I missing? You want to do that next?
Tease it next.
All right, next. Who am I missing? Who would trade their starting quarterback for the number 1 pick in the draft? It's the Will Cain Show on ESPN Radio and the ESPN app. Everybody's in love with the unknown. Do you know the names, the teams I'm getting? Who would trade their starting quarterback for the number 1 pick in the NFL draft? That's the question. 888-729-3776. 888-SAY-ESPN. Who would do that? Now, first of all, we had a caller say Dak Prescott, Dallas Cowboys. Trade Dak Prescott for the number 1 pick in the draft. Trade him and tank. Trade him and not even take a quarterback. Not even believe in Josh Rosen or Sam Darnold. Trade him and take an offensive tackle. Tank. That's what a caller said. That's nuts. Thing is, he's not alone. Like, everybody's in love with shiny, sparkly, brand new. I've got people on Twitter, which I've ventured into the Twitter pool for a moment, saying, like, all right, New Orleans, you trade Drew Brees? I've got Saints fans saying they'd trade Drew Brees. I understand he's old. He's nowhere near done. I don't think he's anywhere near done. I don't know. I'm a Tom Brady disciple, so I believe you can play late. So here's who I had, Cerruti, right? I had Arizona, Buffalo, Cincinnati, Denver, Jacksonville, Miami, New York Jets, Washington Redskins, based upon this from Jay Gruden.
When you're 7-9, it's hard to say, wow, this guy really was outstanding. Kirk had his flashes where he's really good.
Talking like that? Talking like he's not your future. I think the Redskins would do the deal. Do the deal with the Browns. Cerruti, you thought I missed a few teams. Who's not on my list that would trade their starting quarterback for the number 1 pick in the draft?
I think we've seen enough of Joe Flacco, and I think Ravens fans have seen enough of Joe Flacco to kind of know what he is and know that he's probably never replicating what he did in that Super Bowl year a couple years ago. So I think the Ravens trade for the first pick.
For Josh Rosen?
I think they do it.
Rosen over Flacco?
Because, they're sort of winning despite him. He had a pretty bad year.
I don't hate that. I think they might.
You don't think of Joe Flacco being the reason the Ravens ever win games anymore.
I think they might do the deal.
I think he's expendable.
Here's one. Would the Vikings trade, I don't know who, for the number 1 pick in the draft? What does that assume, by the way? Case Keenum?
Keenum and Bridgewater? You trading the whole quarterback room?
I think that the answer is yes, by the way, because you got 3 of them.
Yeah, and you don't really know if any of them are that great.
Keenum is an MVP candidate.
The only reason I'm hesitant is because their window is kind of now. So if you're going to get Rosen, are you technically kind of punting for 2-3 years from now?
You still got 2 more, though. You still got Bradford and Bridgewater and Rosen.
To bridge the gap.
You're not cleaning out the cupboard to do it. Spencer, listening on Sirius XM. Who's your team and who's your quarterback? What's up, man? Who's your quarterback?
Pittsburgh Steelers, Big Ben. Now, I love Big Ben, Hall of Fame guy, 2 rings on his finger, around his hand. But I would trade him right now based on the fact that, do you honestly know if he's going to be back next year? We didn't know if he was going to be back for this year. Halfway through the season, he was questioning if he's, his desire to play. I think if they win the Super Bowl, I think he's done right off into the sunset. So, get another fresh franchise quarterback, because I don't really know if Big Ben's going to be back next year.
I think that's actually totally legit. I think fans talking about selling their aging but proven franchise quarterback like Drew Brees are insane. But Ben Roethlisberger has teased Pittsburgh enough with retirement. You need to be legitimately afraid of it and planning for what comes after him. The only question is, do you initiate it? Do you start the what comes after him by selling on whatever years you have left for Josh Rosen? Cerruti, you had one more in that same vein.
About the Chargers.
No. No.
Why not?
No. I believe in Rivers.
I like Phillip Rivers. I think there's a difference, though, between the guy who brought up the Saints before, because I think Breeze and the Saints are a contender right now. When's the last time the Chargers were, relevant?
This year?
I don't know. I mean, they started off, 0-4?
They're 9-7. The Chargers, by the way, are the one playoff team.
Are they a contender, though? They almost snuck into the playoffs. If you can reset your franchise, I think they are the future. They're looking to the future. Phillip Rivers can keep them in it and get them to maybe 10 wins a year. That's your ceiling. Their ceiling is never going to be higher than that with Phillip Rivers anymore, right?
No, that's not because of Phillip Rivers. That's because of other issues with their team.
But by the time their issues get fixed, he will probably be retired.
They're 9-7. They're the one team in the AFC. They're the one team in the NFL, I feel like, that missed out on the playoffs, that could have done damage, that could have made noise in the playoffs. I think the Chargers, had they made the playoffs in the AFC, they're better than the Bills. They're better than the Titans. They're probably, honestly, if the Chargers were playing Jacksonville right now, today, I think I would take the Chargers. I would take them over the Chiefs. The only two teams in the AFC I think that I would take over the Chargers are the Steelers and the Patriots. And that's because of Phillip Rivers. No way I do that deal with Phillip Rivers.
The Chiefs beat the Chargers twice this year.
Okay. I should have known Mr. Alex Smith fan would have that on his fingertips. Got me there. I still would take the Chargers.
Okay. Third time's the charm, I guess.
That's actually the fact. That's actually a fact. Third time's the hardest time to beat them, man. I think the data surely bears that out. Meeting that conference rival in the playoffs, that's...
Take the L, Will. Take the L.
I said I'd take Phillip Rivers and the Chargers over the Chiefs in the third matchup. I don't have to take an L on it. I would. John Gruden coming back as coach. Who takes his place on Monday Night Football? It's the Will Cain Show on ESPN.